Kelley, let's go back to some more make-miss playoff odds because we have the NFC side. And you know what? These numbers are wild, too, to me. I understand, and let's look at this real quick. I understand why the New Orleans Saints are what they are at minus 195. I understand it. There is absolutely no chance that you can possibly lay a yes price on them. No chance. Because, Kelley, even though they're right, look, that division it's an abomination. There's no other word for it. That division is an abomination on paper going into the year. It should be the worst division we've seen in football in a long time. Should be. Now, granted, we thought the AFC West was going to be the greatest division of all time, and it ended up being a Kansas City demolition derby when it was all said and done last year. But you're talking about a team coached by Dennis Allen almost being a $2 favorite to make the playoffs? I don't care that the other teams in that division stink. That number's off. And I would actually take a no price at plus 165 on New Orleans before I would do anything else.
I definitely would, actually. That was one of the biggest ones that jumped out to me, Jeff, was actually the no on New Orleans. I think that – so this is another one where we could go through this exercise, but I don't think – even with how weak or how much weaker the NFC is than the AFC, I still think – like, you got to win that division, and I don't think that – I think there's enough variance and enough stuff that could happen in this season that the Saints don't win that division, for as many times as the odds indicate that they should. So I'm with you. I think a no price there is what I'd probably be betting, and I might end up betting that.
The Saints, by the way, plus 110 to win the NFC South right now, minus 195 to just make the playoffs altogether. Now, it's not like the AFC South where the margin of being able to get a wild card is basically slim and none. There's plenty of margin to get a wild card because this NFC playoff picture is a mess going into this year. Dallas at minus 180. I don't love the Cowboys going into this year, but I actually think that is a pretty reasonable price, assuming Dak stays upward. There are questions, obviously, with the offensive play calling now in Dallas, but that team just has too much talent in this conference to miss the playoffs.
I completely agree. So those two right at the top, I find interesting for both the opposite ends, right? It would be no on New Orleans and yes on Dallas. As flawed as I think that team is, right? It's
too much talent.
You coming up with that many better teams in the NFC than them?
You're not. It's a horrible conference. It really is. I know the Lions are the betting favorites in the NFC North, and they probably should be. But if you're going to give me plus 140 on the no, I think I'd have to take a bite of that one as well. The only problem is who is winning that division if it's not them. Minnesota's going to have the biggest regression monster of all time, we think. And the Bears roster is still not good enough. I'd rather have Green Bay than Chicago, in all honesty, in that division. Not that I like the Packers at all, but I'd rather have a price on Green Bay than Chicago. And then the rest of this board, by the way, Packers 5-1 to win the NFC North. You know what, Kelley? I am probably going to end up with that in my pocket, and I am going to not like myself when Jordan Love looks awful and they're 1-5 getting into week 7.
Yeah, we talked about it quick yesterday. I think on those prices, I would be on the Vikings again this year. I understand the regression.
Not scared of the regression monster.
I know.
Do you think that's going to be talked about at all going into the season?
Yeah, I think probably a little bit.
You think? Probably.
But yes, I'm getting a plus price on a yes for them to make the playoffs. Like that.
There's still a whole bunch of talent, even with how lucky they were a year ago. The only other thing I will say on this board that is intriguing, the fact that the Seahawks are a flip is wild to me. They should be where Dallas is at this point in the pricing. Because that roster, here's the deal. The question mark with them is, what is Geno Smith what he was early in the year, or is he what he was by the end of the year?
Exactly.
Which, if he's closer to what he was at the end of the year, then that should be a flip. But the way that they have built that roster out now, and they had an amazing draft, and they get the best corner, so they now have an elite corner duo, assuming Witherspoon comes in and is good, which I think he will be. And they got the number one wide receiver in the draft in Smith and Jigba. How are you covering Smith and Jigba, Lockett, and Metcalf? How are you covering those dudes if Geno Smith is actually good? And if Geno is good, Kelley, they're priced to win the NFC West Where did it go?
Like 2.5.
It was 225. Yeah. 225 plus 225. With those quarterbacking questions, to put it politely, in San Francisco, Seattle is alive to win that division if Geno is competent this year.
We were talking about a bit about this yesterday, but man, I think if I had to make a bet in that division, it'd be on the Rams. I'd actually just swing on the.
There we go. Yes,
swing the fences on the Rams coming back into form a little bit. But I think you nailed it with Seattle. But it's because I have that question mark still in my head, as small as it might be, about Geno. I'm not running to bet that yet.
If Matthew Stafford comes back and is healthy, there is a chance for the Rams. Now the problem is they have. Kelly, when you're at the top of the league in dead cap, that usually means you're not going to be any good.
Yes.
But at 6-1, you could talk me into it.
I think it's
you could talk me into it.
I think it's a good flyer. It's a good flyer.
And again, remember, you were talking about an NFC that is a disaster. A disaster. What if the Rams would just make the playoffs?
They are plus 225. I was just looking at that.
That's not a bad one either.
I don't think it is either.
And again, could the Rams go 6-11? Sure. Could Stafford get hurt and who's even their backup quarterback now?
Oh God, good question.
Who's even their backup? Because Wolford's gone.
Oh no, they got Stetson.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's good. That's good. That's exactly what you want.
Future Super Bowl champion.
Stetson Bennett's playing potentially if Stafford's hurt. Yeah,
right? That's where he went, right?
Yeah, Stetson got drafted by them. It's probably technically Perkins right now, according to depth charts, would be my guess. But that's a problem also. So we'll see.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.